Okay. All right, everybody. This is a meeting of the San Mateo Union High School District Board of Trustees. I'm calling open session to order. Today is March 14th, and it is 7:07 p.m. I will start with a roll call. Trustee Griffin?
Present.
Trustee Chavez?
Present.
Trustee Jacobson?
Present.
Trustee Land?
Present.
And I am present. Tonight, we have a team from Hannah Interpreting as our Spanish interpreters. For those who would like to attend the meeting virtually in Spanish, that option is available. Hannah Interpreting, would you please communicate that for us this evening? Thank you.
Absolutely. In order to provide language access, this meeting will have simultaneous bidirectional interpretation into Spanish and American Sign Language. If you're bilingual, you don't have to click anything. But if you're not bilingual and you're using your laptop, in a few seconds, you'll see an icon shaped like a globe at the bottom of your screen. Click on Language Interpretation and then select English. If you use your phone or an iPad, then locate the three-dot menu in one of the corners of your device. Click on Language Interpretation and then select English. When you speak, do so at a moderate pace because the interpreters are going to be simultaneously interpreting everything you say. A efecto de proporcionar acceso lingüístico, esta reunión contará con interpretación simultánea bidireccional al español y al lenguaje de señas americano. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada, pero si usted no es bilingüe y está en su computadora, en unos segundos verá un icono en forma de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Haga clic en Interpretación y después seleccione Español o Spanish. Desde su iPad o su teléfono, busca el menú de 3 puntos o que dice More en una de las esquinas de su dispositivo. Haga clic en Interpretación y después seleccione Español o Spanish y después Aceptar, Finalizar o Done. Cuando hable, hágalo en español y las intérpretes estarán simultáneamente interpretando todo lo que usted diga. Gracias. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. If you wish to view closed captions of this meeting, please view the meeting on the SMUHSD Board Meeting YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube channel can be found on our website. You may view the captions in English as we live stream our meeting tonight, and you may view the captions in a variety of other languages if you choose to watch after this meeting has ended. Viewers may request additional accommodations by calling 650-558-2201. For our deaf and hard of hearing community, we have a team from Hannah Interpreting Services, and they will be interpreting our meeting this evening. We would like to ask everyone to remember to speak at a clear and reasonable pace for our interpreters. Thank you. We will now move on to item H, the Pledge of Allegiance. Will our student board reps help us with the pledge? Thank you.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, report of actions taken in closed session, item I. There were no actions taken in closed session. We will now move to adopt the agenda. The Board of Trustees may either adopt the agenda as presented or make a change to the agenda through a motion, second, and a majority vote. The Brown Act prohibits any additions to the agenda without a 72-hour public notice for regularly scheduled board meetings. Are there any questions or comments from the Board of Trustees or Superintendent with respect to the agenda?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So district staff requests that we pull item T12, Student Success Coordinator Job Description Adult School, and place it on a future agenda.
Okay, thank you. We will pull that.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
the motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Trustee Land and a second by Trustee Griffin. I will do a roll call vote. Trustee Griffin?
Aye.
Trustee Land?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. Also, sorry, student board reps, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Now the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we will go on to public comments. If you are joining us in person and wish to make a comment about an agenda item or during the public comments section at the beginning of the agenda, please fill out a request to address the board form and submit it to the secretary. This form should be given to the secretary before the agenda item begins. If you are joining us virtually, use the raise hand feature on Zoom to be recognized. When invited to do so, your camera must be on before you are called upon to make a public comment. We will call on you to begin your comment once we have promoted you into the meeting. If your camera is not operational, please email your comments to the Board of Trustees at board@smuhsd.org. Please note that the comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment, depending upon the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. I will call on in-person comment request first, and I have one comment card. Shin Se, Peyton Higa, and Caitlin Tan. Can you please come up to the dais? Thank you. Yes, and please speak into the microphone so we can hear you. Thank you.
Dear board members, we're here to address several issues and concerns regarding the recent SAT testing experience that occurred on March 9th, 2024, which was last Saturday. Several students from the San Mateo Union High School District encountered issues with their school Chromebooks while trying to take the test, that including my daughter and her classmates.
So I took my SAT test at Carmont, and as you know, that's out of district. And me and a couple of other students were not able to log on to the Wi-Fi as soon as we opened the Blue Book software, which is what we use for taking the SAT. And if we hadn't been able to use some of the staff computers, we wouldn't have been able to take the SAT at all.
My name is Caitlin Tan, and I took the SAT test at the South San Francisco Conference Center, and they did not have Chromebooks or extra computers for us. So we were sent home that day and told that we would try to get rescheduled for a test in 2 weeks. And we're bringing this up because we want to prevent similar situations for the future SATs.
So first, it's apparent that the administrative settings on certain San Mateo Union High School districts' Chromebooks have configuration issues. So the digital SAT uses the Blue Book app, and when that app is launched, the Chromebooks drop the Wi-Fi connection unless it's connected to this district's Wi-Fi. So that means that anyone taking the digital SAT outside of this district won't be able to connect to the Wi-Fi. And we suggest that the district complete a full audit of all Chromebooks to ensure that the settings are configured correctly, or tell all SAT participants to bring their own computers if possible. And an allocation of pre-configured on-site loaner Chromebooks should be made available.
We also want to bring attention to the challenges that a lot of students encounter when trying to register for an SAT seat. The process is extremely competitive, and it took a couple months just for me to get a seat. So what if this sort of situation with the Chromebooks happens with one of my classmates somewhere in Sacramento? Will they get sent home as well?
So the SAT test fee is $60 or $90 if you late registration. But with the travel and the hotel Airbnb accommodations, the total cost can become a burden for many families. On top of that, can you imagine being told to go home? You can test today or after the long hours of drive. So by providing more testing centers with the district, we can close some of these barriers and ensure that all students has equal opportunities when they do the testing. So we strongly urge the district to consider offer more schools as a test site so that the family doesn't have to struggle so much and it doesn't have to become such a burden. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Superintendent Booker, can we look into this?
Absolutely. And I know there's been communications back and forth from district staff today, and we'll continue to work on it.
Thank you. Okay, going on to governing board comments. Do any of the Board of Trustees have comments to provide before we move forward? I guess I'll go down the list. Trustee Griffin.
I have a quick comment. I had the pleasure Sunday of sitting through I guess it would be the WASP review committee or the committee intro at San Mateo High School with Dr. Kempke and Superintendent Booker. And I had never done one of those before, and they asked a lot of interesting questions. And it looked like there were some experienced people on the team and some relatively some newbies. So it'd be interesting to see the comments that they have out of that. So
Great. Trustee Chavez, actually.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I know, I feel like we haven't met in a while here regarding a regular board meeting. So I have quite a few things to say here. I'll try to be quick. At the end of February, we had our San Mateo School Board Association meeting. And it was a special meeting regarding calming the waters at board meetings. And I felt like that was very informative. A couple of people spoke and gave us their takeaways from that. Trustee Shawnee Stevenson from Sequoia. She was a speaker as well as Miss Madeline Baum, who's an attorney who also served previously as a county counsel for San Mateo County. They gave us a lot of tips on what steps we can take when we have a lot of passion regarding certain subjects. So that was really interesting, and it was well attended. And then on February 29th, which was actually Leap Day, we had our Equity Advisory monthly meeting on Zoom. And that's always really great. And I want to encourage any parent who wants to become involved. I believe the meetings are on the district website, and having more folks involved, it's really great. On March 1st, I was honored to have attended the inaugural Women's Power Breakfast at Skyline College. Women leaders from across the San Mateo County attended that. Diane Pappen hosted this amazing gathering, and I would say the networking collaboration was priceless. All the women leaders, many of the women leaders within San Mateo County include trustees, city council members, mayors, former mayors, and it was just a powerhouse, I think. And there was a really great panel discussion as well. That was pretty awesome. On the next day, March 2nd, a lot of folks had a great time at the Cappuccino Sports Boosters, huge fundraiser, the annual fundraiser. I know all of our school sites have a lot of sports fundraisers, so please get out and support your local sports teams. It was their annual crab feed that was held at San Bruno Senior Center, and it was great to see staff there, including Principal Gomez, and Mayor Rico Medina was there as well. But we had many staff members, parents, community members attend, and there were over 24 students serving us, carrying bowls of crab. So that was pretty awesome. The Leo's Club was there, and students who just wanted to participate and help and serve. Amazing. And then March 6th, we had our Citizens Oversight Committee meeting, and that's really one of my favorite groups as well. I'm really blessed this year to be part of the Equity Advisory Committee and also the Citizens Oversight Committee. And then let's see, open house. All the school sites had open house on March 7th. And so I attended the one at Cappuccino. My daughter attends Cappuccino High School. And the band was performing as parents and students entered the campus. And that was, they really set the stage for that because it was really welcoming. And teachers and students were really engaged in great dialogues. And so I know I shared a lot, but that's what I wanted to share out. So thank you for everybody participating in all the open houses and this, yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Land.
Hi. So actually, I just want to bring up one thing that happened last week. I was able to go to Burlingame High School as part of the partnership articulations. I just want to say that Dr. Fong and all her staff did a great job, amazing. It was great to go into the classrooms and see what was happening at Burlingame High School. I think it's great to start having a partnership with them. I know Crocker Middle School as well as Burlingame Intermediate got to be there. It was really enlightening. One of the things my highlights were, we got some great discussions about math pathways, what was happening, from middle school to to high school. And AVID is something that is really amazing happening at Burlingame and the other high schools. But Mr. Zozos, I hope I'm saying that right. We went into his class and we got to see AVID in action. And I really am hoping to bring it to Burlingame Intermediate School. And I just appreciate the partnership with the high school. And it was amazing. So I just want to let you know, Superintendent Booker and all of the staff, that BHS is doing a great job.
Cool. Thank you. Trustee Jacobson.
I apologize, my voice is a little scratchy today, but like Trustee Griffin, I got to attend the WASC reception on Sunday at Mills High School. And there were students from the leadership and student service committee that took us around. I went around on a tour of the campus with the reviewers, and it was delightful. I learned a lot about Mills that I didn't know. I didn't know that they have a woodworking class and lab, which is really cool, among other things. The students were wonderful, so that was a good experience. Also, last week I was invited to a community leader briefing on the war in Israel and Palestine, and I attended as both a school board trustee and a liaison for the Peninsula Multi-Faith Coalition. And there were other city council members there, the San Mateo mayor, people from clergy from different faiths. And it was a good experience for us to get in a room together and learn together. And also Trustee Chavez and I met with Superintendent Booker, and he briefed us on some new developments that he learned at his superintendent conference about AI. So that was wonderful to have our eyes opened to what's coming and what we need to start thinking about. So that's all. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I will, gonna read my land acknowledgement that was written by the Cappuccino students a couple of years ago. Our community acknowledges that all of our campuses lie on the ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone. The Ramaytush are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula, whose land was stolen from them and whose native language was lost because of Spanish colonization. As settlers on the stolen land of the peninsula, we should be, alongside the Ramaytush, remembering and honoring their ancestors and relatives. We in the district thank the first people, the Ramaytush Ohlone, for taking care of the land we use now for education and activities. Our responsibility for caring for the earth is unique and personal to each of us, but should be rooted in allyship with the Ramaytush Ohlone, so we can work together to protect and preserve the land for future generations. I too attended some really great events. I attended the Pride Prom. It was really neat seeing all the students just being super comfortable and coming as themselves, as their unique selves without judgment or any negative attacks. And so it was a very, very fun night, a great excuse to get all dressed up, and joining prom, since it's been many, many years since we've done that. And what was really funny was the music that was requested. So it was a lot of music that was playing at my own prom. And proms before that. And then, so that made it even more fun. Yeah, so it was really neat also meeting people from different parts of the county. So this event is open to all kids from all parts of the county. And what was really neat was meeting people from the other districts that are close to us. So it was really fun. I also attended the San Mateo County School Board Association meeting that Trustee Chavez did. What I got out of it was really great practical tools on self-care. It's been pretty rough being a board member for all over the nation. And so a school board member. And so it's also important for us to care for ourselves, because if we cannot care for ourselves, we cannot care for others. So that was really good. I attended the last DLAC meeting. We went over information about a survey that was sent out to the families. The majority of the families that returned the survey were from the Spanish-speaking community, so that was really neat to see. Some of the common themes were finding community, helping the students find community as they were here. And it's not, it's a new place for them. Also making sure that the students have time with their counselors. Our next meeting, or the next meeting, would be March 26th. And for more information for anybody that wants to join, you can speak to Elsa Pulido or Joanna Fate. But it's a really great, committee to go to, if you are new to the area, or if you are in the English Learner program. I also attended the Equity Advisory Committee with Trustee Chavez. We just discussed instructional framework around all of the anti-racist work that we've been doing. There was a quote that was shared that said, humanizing pedagogies are the practices of educators working to become more fully human in relationship with their students, to the development of critical consciousness and practice that leads to a liberatory and socially just outcome. So that's like the definition of what we were doing. The next meeting is March 21st at 6 p.m. And please, we really need students and families, other folks from the district to join. And it's led by Dr. Kemke. So it's a really great committee. I also attended the ETA, Empowerment Through Action Ally meeting, and they're also looking for folks to get involved. They're looking for folks to be on their fundraising team, the job internship program team, the community liaison team, and also they're looking for mentors. So if anyone's interested, please reach out to Brett Stevenson, Rachel Lauderdale, or Ed Kanda out at Hillsdale High School. Let's see. There's also the Youth Crisis Continuum of Care that I had attended in the county. There's a cohort of school board members, community-based organizations, the behavioral health services folks from the county, all trying to create a better navigation process for families that are experiencing mental health crises for their students or for their young folks. And so it was really good to know about the different services that there are in the county. And I'm sure our mental health therapists here and our wellness counselors, social workers have all of that information. But it's really important, especially now that we have a really high rates of mental health needs in our district. Also, the Office of Education joined, so Mary McGrath was there from the Office of Education. So it's a really nice balance of people that joined that. I attended the open houses at Peninsula High School and at Hillsdale High School. The Peninsula High School open house was neat because they had an award ceremony for their students that have been doing really well lately. And there was one student in particular that I was very impressed by. She's a junior this year, and she got accepted to San Jose State, and she'll be going to that school this year. Yeah, so it was excellent. So that was really nice to see. And Hillsdale, I love Hillsdale. I mean, my son went to Hillsdale, and so it was just nice to reconnect and see everything that was going on there. And Hillsdale is a great school as well. I attended the WASC at Aragon High School. I was really impressed by their self-reflection and their commitment to always doing better for the students. While I was there, I had a medical emergency, and I was really just really touched and really proud of the folks that helped me there. It just made me confident that if there was something going on at the school that needed serious attention, that would get handled in a positive way. And thank you to Dr. Black also was there, and Principal Arbizu, Assistant Principal Hartig, Assistant Principal Lane, Miss Ho, and Miss Castillo. They were all just on top of everything, so thank you. And I attended the Women's Hall of Fame last Friday. The Commission on the Status of Women in the county holds a Women's Hall of Fame every year. And the Board of Supervisors will present different women in the county that have been nominated and voted on by a committee to receive that recognition. The reason why I brought it here was because there is the opportunity to recognize young women in the county. So students of ours. There were 2 students that were recognized, one from El Camino High School and one from Half Moon Bay High School. And it would be really neat to get that information out next year and have some of our young women recognized at that event. Lastly, we had our board study session for the Brown Act this Tuesday, and it would be really important for anyone out there in the district, parents, anybody that is very interested in knowing how we what the process is for our meetings and why we do the things we do, to watch the recording. It was very informative, and it's not too dry. The Brown Act can be dry. I also want to say thank you to our ASL and sign language interpreters that are here at every meeting. Thank you to our IT folks, and thank you for the folks that keep this building also taken care of. Thank you very much. Lastly, I want to extend a Ramadan Mubarak to everyone that celebrates Ramadan. Acknowledging during this time that's a time of reflection and a time of prayer. Just all of the young people, the students, the schools that are destroyed, and the libraries and colleges in Nigeria. There have been students that have been kidnapped recently. And so just the suffering of our young people in the world that are our future, just keeping them in our thoughts during this time. So yeah, those are all my comments. Okay, we can move on to communications to the Board of Trustees. We will start with our first interim financial report, Superintendent Booker.
Yeah, so thank you very much. We have 2 brief communications to the board. They're for those at home and in the audience. They're attached to the agenda. I'm not going to go through them too much right now because they're weighty, and again, people at home can take a look on the agenda. But the first one is with regard to Design Tech High School and their first interim financial report, which looks positive. And then the second one is from the County Office of Education, acknowledging our first interim report, acknowledging our positive certification. These are annual reports we get, nothing out of the ordinary, but both very positive news. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, recognition. Superintendent Booker, are there any items for recognition?
Absolutely. We've got 2 really exciting items. I'm seeing if the first one is ready. Yes, great. Okay, so we have, as requested by the Board of Trustees, I'm really excited. Tonight, we'd like to recognize the San Mateo High School EL soccer team players and coaches for their accomplishments
Bravo.
this season. There were a total of 22 players on the fall 2023 San Mateo High team. All are enrolled in at least one ELD class, and you can see that we have several of these student athletes here with us tonight. I think we're bringing them in. Trying to bring them in. I'm like extending my speech here. This year, their esteemed coaches are Matthew Shea and Alfonso Duenas. Here, they're coming in. There we
Bravo.
go. Come on in, please.
Pásenle, pásenle.
This year, the team went 6-1-1 in capturing the fall 2023 Andy Hodzik League of Champions. 4 players went on to play for the San Mateo High School varsity team, 4 players for JV, and 1 player for the freshman team during the winter 23-24 season. And by the way, there are 4 schools in the league: San Mateo, Cappuccino Bridge, and Hillsdale. And this season, they've expanded to include South San Francisco. With that, I'll turn it over to the coaches to introduce the players you have with you tonight and say a few words about the team. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Kind of lost my voice, so I'll do my best. So we have a lot of the players from last fall. We have some new players that are joining the program this spring. We have a lot of names. I don't know if I want to read them all off. I had the list before, but we are very excited to continue the tradition at San Mateo High School. We have a very large ELD population, and it's really great that they have this outlet to be able to play soccer and create community and be successful not only in the classroom but on the field. This is Wilder Lopez Martinez. He was our captain last season, and this is the trophy. And so, yeah. And we have a game at Cappuccino at 10:15 on Saturday morning. And so we're excited for game 2. This is, and I'm Matt Shea. This is my co-head coach, Alfonso Duenas. Anything, coach?
Well, one of the things that we enjoy about this league is just having diverse group of students and having them opportunity to really find a way to connect with our schools. We all know that it's the same philosophy that the coaches at Bridge, Cappuccino, Hillsdale, obviously San Mateo High, and now our new team from South San Francisco really enjoys taking part of this.
And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, big round of applause. Congratulations to all the student athletes.
Congratulations.
I want to let the board know, in conjunction with this, we've been working together with district staff, Mr. Hawkins' office, and we are setting up a budget for next year and into the future to really support EL soccer across the district. So it's not just a happenstance program, but really a systems-driven program that will last for years and years within the district, setting up budgets for uniforms and referees and all those kinds of things. You'll see on the agenda that we've got other positions, like a coordinator position for EL soccer as a stipend, coaches stipends, those kinds of things. We've had great partnerships with the Police Athletic League. We're going to continue that partnership, but really look to adopt this program as a district program first, supported by the Police Athletic League. That's how much we believe in this program, and we're so excited to have these kids here today. So thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Exciting.
Okay, I'm going to move on, if that's okay. Yeah. So next we have our Cesar Chavez Day proclamation. Tonight we bring for your approval a proclamation to recognize Cesar Chavez Day, which is March 31st. The proclamation was reviewed by our Student Board Council, and tonight 2 of our Student Board Council representatives, Shreya Gupta from Aragon High and Hiroki Maruyama from Hillsdale High, will read the proclamation for us. So come on up. Thank you so much.
San Mateo Union High School District's proclamation recognizing March 31st, 2024 as Cesar Chavez Day. Whereas, Cesar Chavez Day is a U.S. federal commemorative holiday proclaimed by President Barack Obama in 2014. It is a state holiday in California and is observed in 10 other states. The holiday celebrates the birth and legacy of the civil rights and labor movement activist Cesar Chavez on March 31st every year, and is observed to promote service to the community in honor of his life and work. Whereas, throughout his life and work in service, Cesar Chavez empowered thousands to stand together for their rights and lead our nation towards a more equitable and just society. His visionary leadership inspired a powerful movement that burns brightly to this day, rallying people from all walks of life to champion the dignity of work. Whereas, born near Yuma, Arizona in 1927, Chavez and his family moved to California after losing their home during the Great Depression. Toiling in the fields from a young age, Chavez faced dismissal, working conditions, racism, abuse, and exploitation. Moved to confront these injustices, he began working as an organizer in the farm working community, advocating for improvements in their working and living conditions. Whereas the Vaquero program was established in 1942 as a result of the federal executive order known as the Mexican Farm Labor Program. By this program, millions of Mexican males were able to secure temporary employment in the U.S. Chavez recorded for the injustices of the Vaquero program in his attempt to unite Latino Americans. Despite not being a labor union, Chavez's attempt to organize farm workers were greatly aided by the CSO, Community Service Organization.
Whereas, founding the United Farm Workers, UFW, together with Dolores Huerta, Chavez challenged Americans to recognize that the produce on their dinner tables was picked by human hands, often the hands of people who were denied the most basic human rights. Bringing their cause to the national stage, Chavez led a historic march of farm workers from Delano to Sacramento in 1966 and helped launch a successful boycott of grapes that galvanized support across the country and beyond. Whereas Chavez's tireless efforts were instrumental in the passage of the 1975 California Agricultural Labor Relations Act, which made our state the first in U.S. history to give farm workers the right to join a union and engage in collective bargaining. Whereas on the anniversary of his birth, we celebrate Cesar Chavez's hard-won strides for social justice and reflect on the work that lies ahead to build a brighter future for all of our communities. Let us carry on his timeless legacy by lifting up our neighbors, speaking out against injustice, and working together to extend the dream of prosperity, equity, and progress to all. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing board of the San Mateo Union High School District. Understand its responsibility to recognize March 31st, 2024 as Cesar Chavez Day and encourage our students and community to learn more about Chavez's life and legacy. San Mateo Union High School District, passed and adopted on this 14th day of March 2024.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any comments from the board?
I'd just like to make a motion to approve the proclamation and sorry. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, trustee Chavez.
Really? Okay. I'd like to make the motion to approve the proclamation recognizing March 31st, 2024 as Cesar Chavez Day.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Chavez and a second by trustee Land. Okay, I will do a roll call. Trustee Griffin.
Aye.
Trustee Chavez.
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson. Aye. Trustee Land.
Aye.
And I vote aye. I just wanted to mention a few things. I wanted to really acknowledge our farm workers with this proclamation. We have folks that rain or shine, through the cold rain, to the hot blistering sun. They're out there picking our fruits and vegetables, getting food on our tables through COVID as well. They didn't take a break. They kept working. And so, unfortunately, they still live in pretty deplorable conditions. Last year, the coast side was exposed for having really subhuman conditions of living for our farm worker community. And so I just wanted to mention that there was a report out by the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors that about $4 million will be given from the state to provide farm worker housing. So about 20 units will be built. Not enough still, and that's all over California, I believe. And so, yeah, we still need a lot more advocacy and a lot more change. But thank you, students, for reading that proclamation.
Totally agree. Can I just add?
Yeah.
I know with Cesar Chavez Day and recognizing the farm workers is very important, but in the historical perspective, I think it's important to mention not just the Latino families, but also the Filipino families that contributed
Yes.
to the situation,
Yes.
to the
Mhm.
struggle at the time. And so, having my wife's family be farm workers in the area, and just wanted to acknowledge that it's important to acknowledge both in that struggle, and that we still have things to
Yeah.
do, which Trustee Andrade Zuniga mentioned. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I did not mention the student board reps to vote on this item as well. So I will remember to do that. I apologize. Yeah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. So now it is official. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Let's see, do any of the trustees have an item they would like to pull for discussion? No?
I'll move adoption. of
Second.
consent-
Okay,
consent
thank you.
agenda.
We have a motion by trustee Griffin and a second by trustee Land. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson? Aye. Trustee Land?
Aye.
And student board reps?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And I vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, going on to regular reports. Report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. I'll try to keep this brief. I just want to acknowledge and thank all of our educators across the district as we're in WASC Week 1. We're finishing up WASC Week 1 and we'll be entering into WASC Week 2. This is an accreditation visit that we prep for months and months and months, if not a whole year. It's an accreditation process that all schools, all high schools across the state of California go through. It's to monitor student learning and set school improvement goals. It's an ongoing cycle where schools assess their program and the impact on student learning with respect to a criteria set forth by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. That's the acronym for WASC, and other accreditation factors. In a sense, what WASC does is they come onto our sites and they do a pretty thorough review. And the analogy that's used is they hold a mirror up to our schools. We do a self-study. This is who we think we are. This is where we think we need to grow. These are our goals. This is our culture and our community. And we put that out there for this accreditation team. These are educators from across the state that come and visit, and they write a report after spending a couple of days with us. They meet with students and educators and families, administration, district administration, board members, and they write a report. And basically what this report says is, yep, you got it right. Your self-study is pretty right on. Or, hey, we saw some other things that we think with which you need to improve. This typically happens every 6 years. And it culminates in the refinement, like I said, of the school-wide action plan. So I just want to thank our WASC coordinators across the district, our administrators, all of our teachers and staff that put so much effort into the accreditation process. And I know we've got schools jumping into it next week as well. And I want to commend all of our schools for all their hard work. It's really been amazing. I'm not giving it the credit that it deserves here. It is a ton of work. And then secondly, I want to thank Hilda Villanueva. She is a wellness counselor at Peninsula High School. She reached out to me, invited me to attend B Street Boxing today in San Mateo. She brings students as part of their flex period and lunch period every Thursday to B Street Boxing. And I got to watch not only the students participate in not boxing each other, but like the punching bags and being taught by an instructor, but a couple of educators as well from Peninsula High, had the gloves on and were working out. And it's a workout. It is amazing. And I know we're going to post a few images and videos that I took today on our social media pages. So please be on the lookout for that. But it was amazing. And I know the kids had so much fun, and the staff did too. And big shout out for B Street Boxing, their staff in supporting our students. And what I was learning is that this opportunity on Thursdays is one of the big key factors of why some of these students come to school every day. It's to participate, it's to be eligible and to participate in this activity. So just big thanks. And then secondly, I'll be attending Peninsula High School tomorrow for the entire school day. So I'll pack my lunch, I'll have my backpack on, and I'll get to go class to class to class and shadow some students and participate in a full school day at Peninsula just to get a better sense of the culture and the community and what students and educators go through on a daily basis. And then I'll have an opportunity to meet with staff afterward and debrief a little bit about what I'm learning, what I got to see, what they're experiencing as well. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. So big thanks to Peninsula High School staff for the invite and for setting all of that up. And with that, I'll move on and say thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you're doing that. Thank you. Okay, now report of the student board rep.
So today we would like to take the time to update the board and district on events happening at our respective schools. So as for our recent and upcoming BHS events, I'm excited to share that tomorrow will be opening night for BHS's musical Footloose. And the robotics team took 4th place at the Silicon Valley Regional Robotics Competition a couple weeks ago. We had our open house last week where many of our parents met our wonderful teachers and saw displays of our really interesting coursework. And also the CMEA festival is coming up, which various wind ensembles and bands from all over our school district will be competing in. Also just kind of like acknowledging WASC this past week. WASC's accreditation team came to our schools to monitor classes. And of course, last time we heard the principals at the board meeting describe WASC in more detail. And it was just really great to hear about the improvements in education and student wellness that will be coming to our school. So thank you.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to attend one of WASC's debrief meetings, and it was great to hear positive work, positive feedback in regards to our student body, student resources, and just the campus. In the words of one WASC member, they said, staff are thoughtful, engaged, and connecting, and students' voices are heard and valued. So I think it's really great to see our schools just moving in the right direction. We'd also like to thank the district for hosting Pride Prom. I believe last year 175 students attended, and this year 285 students attended. So over 100 new students feeling comfortable being themselves in our district. And I think that really is a testament to the district just embracing our diverse student body. Lastly, variety of inter-school events. I know my school, Aragon and Hillsdale, had a couple of collaborations in improv and in jazz. So it's always great to see students connecting, not just within our own schools, but also with each other. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your report. Excellent report. Okay, we'll go on to report of the District Teachers Association rep, Ms. Lauderdale.
Good evening, President Andrade Zuniga, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Booker, and District Leadership. It's a pleasure to speak with all of you tonight. President Andrade Zuniga, thank you so much for mentioning our Empowerment Through Action program at Hillsdale. And congratulations to the San Mateo ELD soccer team for their fall championship. The ELD Soccer League is actually a result of the work of our Empowerment Through Action program, Brett Stevenson, Samia Showman, and the relationship we've created with the San Mateo Police Activities League. We hope that the district will take the same consideration in funding our ETA basketball league, which includes Hillsdale, Cappuccino, Aragon, and Peninsula. There are many ways our district leaders and community members can be involved in the program. Please reach out to me if you'd like to get involved. And I would love other opportunities to talk more formally about our amazing ETA program. I look forward to hearing the presentation about the district's professional learning. I'm incredibly invested in the professional learning of the educators in our district. In addition to my role as a vice president of our Teachers Association, I'm Hillsdale's MTSS Tier 1 coordinator, the Student Equity Council coordinator, and I sit on our professional development team. Hillsdale is the only school without a sole PD coordinator. Previous to the MTSS role, I served as Hillsdale's instructional technology coordinator for 5 years and helped our staff through the adoption of Canvas and the COVID pandemic. I have a pretty good sense and understanding of how our PD functions with individual schools and the larger district as a whole. And I say that not to toot my own horn, but for context for my thoughts tonight. The students in Hillsdale Student Equity Council identified dehumanizing language and bullying as the biggest equity issue on our campus last year and this year. Our MTSS team, Tier 1 team, with our Student Equity Council, created learning experiences for our adults to practice interrupting dehumanizing language on campus. We have taken small but significant steps to start addressing this deep and painful equity issue. Since then, we have shared our resources with multiple school sites facing the same issue. The dehumanizing language we hear on campus is more frequent and common than we've ever experienced. It is horrific, to say the least. I hope something as harmful as this can bring leaders from the district and school sites together to unite against hate and create solutions that are student-focused and effective. I look forward to the opportunity to be creative and innovative with other school and district leaders to think about the necessary adult and student learning that will help our school sites be brave spaces where all our students feel a sense of belonging. On the other hand, I'm extremely disappointed to hear the district's decision to cut the instructional technology coordinator section across the district. I'm even more disappointed to hear that the decision was made without any ITC input or dialogue with our leaders. Our ITCs worked tirelessly to support the transition from School Loop to Canvas, and then a couple of years later, trained over 500 educators of how to do Zoom school when our school shut down. Without the foundation of Canvas and the hours and hours of hard work and heart from our ITCs, our students' distant learning experience would have been detrimental to their future. We owe our ITCs so much more than they have been given. They are rarely thanked or appreciated. To have the decision to cut their position from a section to a stipend position without their consideration or any notice to them is thoughtless and hurtful. Additionally, there was no thought of the future of instructional technology in our district. To think that we are there and that our educators know enough to successfully integrate innovative technology into their classrooms without support is ignorant. We waited for years for a job description that accurately portrayed the hours and hours of work and innovation it takes to support educators with technology in their classrooms and other spaces. Again, they find themselves without an accurate job description and are left questioning what their work will and can look like next year. Our district has invested millions of dollars in technology, and without proper leadership and vision, the money will be wasted. The ITC's leadership and vision are invaluable, and they deserve to be treated as such. We need to be careful of what we expect from our teacher leaders. Now our professional development coordinators, if the school has one, is also responsible for making sure that our educators understand and use instructional technology in their classrooms, in addition to all of the other PD priorities. Much like our MTSS Tier 1 coordinators who are tasked with solving all of the Tier 1 issues at every school, the district expects one person can hold more than one section and provide time to do, the district expects one person can hold than one section can provide time to do so with fidelity and efficacy. We encourage the district to collaborate with our teacher leaders about such important decisions and changes. Remember that we are humans with deep passion for our students and their learning, but we need to be set up for success by our district. Thank you so much for your consideration and time tonight.
Thank you very much. Going on to report of the CSTA, Chapter 519 rep, Ms. Clemens. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you this evening. I didn't write things this time because I stumble over it. So I'm just going to spew like I usually do. So February 26th, I got invited to participate in the California Labor Management Initiative conference at the San Mateo County Office of Education. There were lots of people from the other unions, Yancey, Kirk, everybody there. It was neat to see everybody at the table together, adult school. It was a way to have everyone learn to communicate better through discussing contracts, which was just amazing just to see everyone sitting at the same table, because I've never sat at the same table with all the folks that were there. And it's like, oh, I see, this is going to be the way they're going to get us to all meet more regularly. But it would help get information down to everyone, because everyone is so spread out and has so many different responsibilities at different school sites or facilities that we all need to be on the same page. So also, I did actually enjoy today sitting through the just over 2-hour presentation of the Brown Act. That was a fun training. But then, of course, I was able to put it on pause and walk away for a little bit. But I loved, what's his name was, Harold Freeman. He's a great trainer.
Yeah, he is great.
I think he should put the boxes of cereal back in the training that he discussed. But I thought it was very effective, and it was interesting, all the nuances he was able to explain about how and what things work, how they work. And I have no intention of ever being on a school board, but that's a whole lot to keep up with. But thank you for doing so. So I guess about the union, we're doing great. We've been working together to support our members, increasing our membership. We have tentatively scheduled a date for our first negotiations meeting. We're hoping to do it all in person. I'm working with Monique to schedule that now. And to find a room big enough for all of us to sit would be great. So we're working on it. We'll get this together. We don't have the vast list like we did last year, so this should be significantly easier to address. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
I can talk.
Report of the San Mateo Adult School Teachers Association.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Oscar Mendez, and I'm reporting from the wonderful San Mateo Adult School. And look what we got here. We got a group of hardworking individuals here.
Hi, everybody.
Improving their language skills. Right now, working really hard on the infamous irregular verbs and past tense. Not fun, but they're really putting a lot of work into it. And they really just doing the best they can to make sure they can improve the language skills. So very grateful that we can provide those opportunities for all of them. And let me just go ahead and share with you the report. The annual ESL graduation is happening on 3/28 at 6:30 this p.m. in the Smart Center Venus Saturn Room. We have 15 candidates who are taking their ESL graduation exam this week with the hope of passing in order to transition to college and career programs. Several graduation candidates have already started their career education programs in our CE department, participating in the ESL City Government this semester, which is a class in partnership with the city of San Mateo. Yeah, go San Mateo, where students learn about city governance and their participatory and advocacy roles in it. And some students have also already started their career education department professional communication class. Those who pass the ESL graduation exam are in our college bound will be participating in our college application workshops happening March 19th and 20th with our consortium partners and our translation navigators. And as such, we will not be able to report on March 28th as we will be hosting the ESL graduation. And many of our instructors and staff will be in attendance for the ESL graduation. But before we leave, I want to give a shout out to all the wonderful educators who are helping our community grow in their language, English language development and other areas that are needed in our community. And of course, with the support of our wonderful board as well. So with no further ado, everybody say thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to special reports and appearances. Spotlight on student learning, P Athletic Study Hall, Superintendent Booker.
Thank you very much. So this evening, I'm going to talk a little bit about our PE Athletic Study Hall and give the board and community a brief update, try to answer questions as best as possible, and talk about the good and the rough. This is the first time we've done this program in a long time, and the board had requested that we provide kind of a status report as we've gone through this year. If I can remind the community and the board, this was a program that was approved last spring. And this is called the PE Athletic Study Hall program, and it's specifically for 10th grade students. As 10th graders, student athletes, students were assigned to a PE class, but had the option to work independently on homework during their season of sport. Also, or additionally, these 10th graders were allowed the opportunity, if they wanted to do PE instead, they could do that. There was a choice there. Back in February, the board approved an MOU with CSCA to support a differential and hourly pay for our student success coordinators, library media technicians, instructional assistants, and campus safety specialists who looked to serve as supervisors for those groups of student athletes. That term of the MOU, though, is just for this school year. So we have more work to do around supervision. And I would say, just as a punchline or a headline here, supervision has been the biggest challenge in how we best perform that. Who does it? How do we pay for it? How do we sparse it out so we don't have too many students in the same period, and those kinds of things. So those are discussions we're going to have to continue to have this spring as we move into the fall. As a part of the board background or the board memo, we provided a data chart that depicted how many students from each high school are participating. Remember, these are just sophomores, sophomore student athletes during their particular season of sport. And so I'm just going to list off a few totals here, but if the board is interested or the community is interested, you can pull up the attachment. Aragon High School this year, fall, winter, and spring sports combined, we had about 197 students participate in the study hall. Burlingame High School, 337 students. Cappuccino, 60 students. Mills High School, 180 students. Hillsdale High School, 406 students. And San Mateo High School, 143 students. So a lot of students across the district took advantage of this opportunity to participate in the PE athletics study hall. We solicited the PE department and the athletic directors to talk a little bit about the student experience, what they're seeing, how it's impacting students across the district. And the PE department provided feedback that I included in the board memo. I cut and pasted word for word what they had to say. So just to give some fidelity to their comments and recognizing it's not all good. Anytime you do a program for the first year, it's not going to be entirely smooth. We recognize that, and so we have work to do there. But they gave us what they called glows, what is working well, grows, what still needs to be ironed out, and ideas for improving the program for next year and beyond. And what we're seeing is that this program is it's not consistent necessarily across all school sites in the glows, grows, and ideas for improvement. And we anticipated that anytime, again, you're starting a new program across the district, we're going to see bumps. But across the board, what we are hearing are that by and large, students are receiving extra time to complete their schoolwork, which was, the heart and soul of the program, because we know that student athletes practice at different times in the afternoon or in the evening. Some of our student athletes have work after school or family commitments, and so getting to homework when they're a student athlete can be a challenge. We saw smaller class sizes in PE classes because we were pulling kids out, and kids seem to be really enjoying that extra time. Now, some of the grows, of course, like I mentioned, supervision is definitely a grow area. How we supervise, who supervises, how many student athletes we have in whether it's the library or other areas at one time. And you'll see in that data chart, we've got some overloaded periods. So I know the principals are going to be working on master schedule next year on where sophomore student athletes are placed in their PE classes throughout the day. We also had a provision in the MOU, and this was really to support supervision, safety of students, all those kinds of things, that if any period were 25 students or more, the district would then go and hire a certificated substitute to serve as a supervisor in that particular area. We weren't necessarily going to do that for, let's use Burlingame High School's second period in the fall. That only had two student athletes at that time. So we weren't going to hire a certificated substitute for two. But when we saw some programs with 41 students or 28 students, then we hired a certificated substitute. We also had reports of students not using study hall as what it was intended for. We had students playing cards, board games, or accessing games and social media, maybe on their phones or their devices, instead of completing their coursework. And again, I'm going to continue on. There were many comments about supervision and how we need to work on that. There are also concerns about there shouldn't be exceptions to allow students to participate in this program if they're not attending daily practice, their attendance at practice and at games and those kinds of things. So better coordination with coaches, athletic directors, and PE teachers around what these students are doing while they're, are they actually participating in athletics? Attendance and attendance tracking is an area where we need to grow as well. And so ideas, again, about supervision. I'm getting PE teachers saying, keep the program, but assign someone the official task to supervise the student athletes. A little bit about how we keep data around attendance, and better communicating set start dates when it begins and when it ends, when students are jumping back into PE, those kinds of things. I was going to read the athletic director feedback, but I know Jeff Scheller is here, and maybe I can invite him to come up and talk a little bit. He's the athletic director at San Mateo High School. I appreciate you getting the feedback from athletic directors, but if you want to give some feedback, I really, and again, it doesn't have to be good, right? The whole point of this is really to provide the good and the rough so we can better address it.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. I think with the timing of the decision was definitely difficult for everybody to, come together. But I think from an athletic director nature of the job is always trying to figure things out. And so that's kind of the mode we go into. And a lot of athletic directors come from the PE world. And so jobs is really, a concern. But I do think overall it's been pretty positive. All the things that you said, we see a decrease in stress level, having more time to do homework. Those have been positive. There have been times where I've gone in there and sure, they're not doing what they should do, and that's kind of their time. They have to figure that out. But overall, I think it is positive. The supervision part is definitely something we need to work on. The attendance part is something everybody does something a little different, what works for their school. And everybody has a little tweak here and there, but I think generally it's overall working pretty positively, and just want to smooth things out a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. I do want to acknowledge, and I know I have Ms. Clemens in the audience here from CSEA. She and I have had many conversations about supervision and the role of the library media technician, the student success coordinator, and others. And it has been a challenge. I've heard from library media technicians and student success coordinators around some of the challenges for supervision. And, we want to work those out. I think we're going to have to come up with some different planning around this. And this is why we only did the MOU for 1 year, recognizing that we're likely to have to make some changes. And we, as a district leadership team and a governance team, there might be a fiscal impact to those kinds of changes because supervision is expensive, at least paying people. And so we're going to have to continue to talk about this to see what the best plan is moving forward around that.
And I think there might be one school where an athletic director is doing most of the supervision, and that's not really, the
point of the role.
Point of a full-time AD is having them sitting in the library with student athletes. But, the goal is to try to do what's best for the student, their mental health. And I've seen, at least at my school, you saw the numbers of participation. I've seen kids go, oh, I can do this. I'll join track. You can do this. I'll join basketball. So we've seen a little bit more participation has been the incentive. Not a lot, but a little bit. Every little bit counts.
So thank you very much. I'm happy to answer questions from the board. There's no action here tonight, but if there's any direction, I'm happy to take that and continue to work with district staff. But I would say overall, from the student point of view, I think there's a lot of positives around the program. I think from the adult point of view of supervision, we have work to do there.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will open it up for questions. I'm gonna go down the roll. Trustee Griffin, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the report. You know, I guess some of the issues were to be expected because I was trying to recall, it seemed as though we were fairly late getting this program going. And so now I think we have the opportunity, and I'd like to see it continue to kind of tweak it and particularly deal with the the coordination and the disciplinary sort of attendance issues. And probably get together and share some best practices, because I'm sure after having gone through this year, they can all get together and say, well, you know, this worked, this didn't work. Maybe they can brainstorm and come up with better ways to do things. You know? And I think study hall's always been a place where people have not, they either really apply themselves
Right.
or they really don't apply themselves.
Yeah.
That's a very good
It's always been a
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah.
So thanks for the report.
Yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Chavez.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the report. I think it's, I mean, anytime you receive feedback from teachers, staff, students, I always take that very, very, very critically. I think it's very important. So thank you for putting together some of the feedback here. I was also hearing before I read the report, I was also hearing that there were some negative impacts on students and teachers. And when this was brought to the board and we approved it, when it was brought to the board for approval, I remember mentioning that we should be open to tweaking it, to tweaking the program or even halting it, stopping it altogether if the negative unintended consequences outweigh the benefits. I do think it's really necessary and beneficial to take a look at what's working well, what's working. Sorry, my microphone, and what didn't work. But you have a lot of that in your report already here, so thank you, Superintendent Booker. Have we thought about an evaluation system or if we did, what would that include? And then I do have a question regarding one of the comments. One of the comments says teachers have to reteach things that were taught while students were in study hall. So I was hoping that the study hall that they're attending is to replace PE. So I'm not sure if this comment, I'm concerned now that maybe some of the students are going to the study hall and they're missing other classes.
I think that's coming from a PE, if I can
Oh,
interrupt, that's coming
okay.
from a PE teacher saying, hey, my student in second period PE was gone for the fall sports season,
Oh,
missed
okay.
out on certain activities.
I
When
see.
they came back during the winter sports season, back to my PE class, now I'm having to reteach some of the things that I taught the class in
Okay,
the fall.
I understand.
So can I jump in about
Oh, sure,
evaluation? Yeah,
sure,
so I think a couple of next steps here. One is, I think we need to do a student survey and get a sense of how the students felt about the program. Was it a good use of their time? And I think they'll be pretty honest. They'll let us know. If it's no, it's a great use of time to play solitaire or, whatever it might be. So one step is student surveys, and I'd like to bring that back to the board before the end of the school year. We need to survey those that did perform supervision. What do they think worked? What didn't work? Bring that back to the board, and then bring together our athletic directors and PE teachers once again with district leadership to talk about how are we going to adjust some of the, you call them tweaks, but the areas where we need to grow. What kind of adjustments do we think are necessary for the program to continue to grow and flourish?
Thank you. And I had one last question. I'm interested to know how many students took advantage of this. I know that the chart we have here, it probably a student can be counted 3 times. For example, Hillsdale has, we'll say 96 for period 6. So that includes the fall, winter, and spring. I know together I'm just picking Hillsdale just because it has a high number, 406. I'm not sure if we have 406 sophomores that are in
No, we may
after-school
have
course.
multi-sport athletes,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was wondering. So I was just kind of curious what the total number of, maybe it's too hard to conclude, but what the total number of athletes that took advantage of this, but.
I can do that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for the report. I think it's really great information. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Jacobson.
I did notice in one of the comments that someone suggested or questioned whether we could somehow make this at the last period of the day. I have no idea how difficult that is. I think at Hillsdale it's challenging because of the house system, but that would be the ideal scenario if we could, because I know my daughter had to miss her history class for tennis matches and things that she had last period. It'd be great if, I don't know how hard that is.
Yeah, I know the principals are looking at the master schedule around
Mhm.
where can we, as best as we know it, where can we move our sophomore student athletes in the sense of PE class? Do we put them all in 6 periods, 7 period, what does that look like?
Mhm.
We don't
Mhm.
always know who the student athletes are going to be
Yeah,
at
that's
times,
true.
but we have a sense in looking at our freshman athletes this year, moving on to next year. Um, it it isn't easy. I'll acknowledge that because it can hamstring your master schedule by placing so many kids into those end
Yeah,
periods.
yeah.
But I know that that's been part of the conversation we've been having with our principal team in investigating where can we move it to not have it spread out. Now, that brings about another problem where if I have too many in one period, where am I going to put them all?
Yeah.
And then supervision, and so it solves problems, but it also creates problems. So we need to
Yes.
work through that.
Yes.
That's great.
Thank you. Trustee Land.
Actually, a lot's been said, and I'm glad that Trustee Jacobson brought that up, because I think if you could do it towards the afternoon, it'd be great. But I do, as a principal, totally understand master schedules are hard, and how to make it. I think now is a good time because we're now creating our master schedule for next year. So maybe we can optimize it. But like you said, it's not an easy it's not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to commend you for being so honest and and giving us the real deal, like what's going on, so that we can make adjustments. So it's not a perfect world, and let's work with it. So I just want to compliment you on how you presented today, and so we can really move forward and make some adjustments for next year.
Yeah, I thanks. I appreciate that. And I do want to thank everyone that's participated in making this work, right? From PE teachers to athletic directors to principals to assistant principals to library media techs and student success coordinators and instructional aides. And I mean, just a lot of people, a lot of hands on deck to make this work. So I do appreciate everyone's efforts. I know it's been stressful at times. So so thanks. Yeah. And we have
What's that?
we have one hand.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I have one question, or a couple questions actually. So I have talked to folks in other districts that have done this. And one of the concerns has been students taking, the study or getting involved in the sports so they can get out of PE and not going to practice. So that is a concern. I'd like to know how this has impacted people's grades. Have they gotten better? Can we survey that? That would be interesting to know. But if students are doing that, we need to stop that. It's not good. But also the concern that, if there are students that don't go to PE regularly as it is and being afforded this, I mean, it definitely should be a privilege. So I don't know how that is managed. I'll leave that up to the sites, but those are concerns. I want them to do well, period. And I don't want kids to be stressed about homework and stuff like that. But if it's not really taken, seriously, then what's the point, right? So, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, there's no vote, right? So I'll open up for public comment. We don't have anybody in the audience, or do we have any in the audience?
Not in the audience, you have one online.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Maria Jin, I'm now promoting you.
Maria?
You may turn on your camera and unmute.
Okay, hi. Hi. My son did participate in that and he enjoyed it a lot. My question is, so if this is successful, or are you going to extend it to the junior and senior years too? If this program works for the athletes?
Good question. Go ahead.
So I would say no, only because junior and senior PE is not a graduation requirement. And, we just need 2 years of PE. So I don't see us extending it for juniors or seniors because of that.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, because my son took advantage of it, and I think he enjoyed it, and I think it was helpful for him.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Okay. So since this is just there's no action.
No.
Then we can go on to the next item.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Going on to spotlight on student learning, professional learning certificated. Dr. Kemke.
All right, good evening. Really proud to introduce this topic. We're really fortunate to have two extremely talented individuals leading our district professional learning, Marlo Bagset and Sabby Hopkins. They, just to put a little context to it, between the two of them, they put on a huge event that I think a professional event planner would be proud of seeing what they're able to pull off. So they're going to share a bit about that tonight, as well as some of the goals we have for our professional learning going forward. So with that, I'm going to pass it over.
I just want to confirm that this is the clicker. Yeah, okay.
I know it looks like a walkie-talkie.
Okay. No. Excuse me. Good evening, student board reps, Board of Trustees, Cabinet Superintendents, Superintendent Booker. My name is Marla Bagsick, and I'm so glad to be here with you all and presenting what I live and breathe, which is professional learning in our district. And I'm here with Sabby Hopkins to really go over our January PD days. And so as you can see here, that's our selfie on stage. And we gathered together under this theme this year, which is interdependence and anti-racism, healing together. And so the purpose of that day was to really think about previous inputs, previous feedback from our educators and teachers. And so we acknowledge and continue on our anti-racist school and transformation community journey. And we really acknowledge the harm that's continuously being done, but we also gathered together to develop and create an event that empowered teachers to think about ways to promote equity, embrace diversity, and then also come together collaboratively to rethink what we can do as educators to heal this educational climate. And also in the pursuit of education excellence for all students. So when we think about the design of the day and the attendance, similar to last year, we had attendance rates that were comparable. 390 people came. This is the roster of the many presenters and experts. Different from last year, we actually hosted both external experts and invited our own internal experts to run some sessions. So we actually listened to last year's feedback, offered more sessions, invited our own internal expertise mixed in with external, which really provided some amazing outcomes. And also different from last year, instead of having 4 destinations, we divided it into 2, which are the blue strands and then the yellow strand. And that was mindsets and practices. And so we really encouraged our participants and educators to choose a blue strand session and a yellow strand session. And this is just a preview of the morning session, but also the afternoon session was duplicative with the exception of added sessions from our internal experts. So when you think about the session alignment and how it was selected, everything was curated in accordance in our commitment to our anti-racist transformational journey. And we looked at 3 key facets to make sure that alignment was being met. We looked at our racial equity board policy. We looked at our current 23-24 LCAP priority areas. And then also with our upcoming principles of our draft instructional framework, we really crossed that with all the inputs that were offered to our educators in our January PD day. And so routinely, it's just common practice in any PD, either site or even district-led. We go through universal questions, kind of inviting participants to give evaluation quantitatively and quantitatively. So when we take a deeper dive and look at the effectiveness of our PD and the sessions, we ask them, how relevant is it to your practice? And so wonderfully, 82% rated it a 4 or better. And then some things to capture that here are our educators had said the quality of our 2 speakers in my education sessions was top notch, and I hope that these presenters and others like them continue to come back next year. And they felt that the day was spent learning and very meaningful. And just like some from practical applications, an educator talked about like taking more circles and applying that to their content areas. So really, it just wonderfully shows that they saw that very applicable in how they're transforming practice and educating our students in the district. Another question or common question that we ask them is to rate the overall effectiveness of the presenters and how they facilitated the learning. And 88% rated 4 or better. So meaning to say that the sessions that we selected were really in alignment and was the demand of what they wanted to see and what it means to change and lift and empower them as educators. And I'll just uplift a couple of our educators who really spotlighted our internal expertise, the AI workshop. Welcome back, Don Begue. We loved having him back alongside the support of district ITCs who ran the AI workshop. And then our own ILT member, Dan Connolly, who ran a session on humanizing pedagogy. Like wildly and amazingly, he was uplifted and spotlighted just because of his ways of facilitation. So that's also a win. The third question that we ask when we ask for session feedback is its alignment to PD goals and our purpose. So as I outlined what our purpose was earlier in the day or earlier this evening, this is also really rated well, 85% rated 4 or better, saying that it was in a direct alignment with how the day was designed and what it intended it to do. And so some things that was really spotlighted was the agency and the choice that educators got to select from like a variety of different ways. Because as we know, education, we just have tons of different things that we have to be experts in, right? And then there was also an uplifting, an introduction of the district ILT team, and people loved seeing them and getting introduced to them, and also loved witnessing what other sites PDs were doing and focusing on. So I'm going to pass it off to Sabby to go over the rest of the day and the highlights.
Thank you so much, Marlo. And, you know, if it hasn't been clear, Marlo has done an amazing, amazing job putting together like a professional level quality event. And so just a shout out to Marlo before I go into the next section on our clicker. All right, so some things we want to celebrate, really appreciating that our teachers have a sincere desire to instructionally align their practices with our anti-racist transformation journey. A lot of the work we've done past several years has been a focus on the how, and these are opportunities for teachers to get into the what. Like, what does this look like in my classroom? What are the shifts that I need to make? Also, another celebration is successfully leveraging our internal candidates, our teachers, who are willing to come forward and run some of these workshops, as well as some continuing and new external experts. We also felt like we were able to meet the needs of our community by offering content-specific sessions, which we have not done for a little while. So some of our world language teachers and our CTE teachers were able to come together in our own specific sessions to do a deep dive, and also meeting the needs by providing choice and workshop, which really is an important adult learning theory component. You know, people need to feel like they have some agency and choice in their learning. We also saw a lot of connections between the professional learning that's been happening at our school sites throughout the year and what we were able to offer through our district workshops. And again, as Marlo stated, it was a wonderful opportunity for us to sort of formally introduce our instructional lead team to all of our certificated staff. So as always, there are some challenges that come up. You know, we want to continue to ensure that all parts of the day are aligned with one another and that they're cohesive. And we want to make sure we're meeting a balance with session timing and structure. We made some adjustments from last year based on the feedback. Tried to have a little bit shorter time in the morning with a little bit more time with the workshops, but we still have some folks requesting us to think about that balance. We've also had some of our participants lift up this idea of We love the learning, and it would be great if we also had some time to debrief with our colleagues about what it is that we're learning and how we can like roll up our sleeves and do that practical application piece. So that's something for us to continue to iterate on. How can we build that into our day? And we were able to engage a higher percentage of our certificated community in our work. Is a struggle that we continue to work on, right? So even though our attendance rate was on par with our PD attendance, which was about 70% year by year, we know that we've got about, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30% who we want to continue to explore. How can we get them to come to these workshops? We did try a couple of things. We did all of our communications a month earlier than we did last year. We also sent out pre-registration information, so folks had information about the workshops in advance and they could make choices. Do want to acknowledge that the 49ers lost the playoff game the day before, and that could possibly have impacted attendance. That's outside of our control, but we are continuing to iterate on and try different things we can in order to get more people to come to these events. So some surprises, our highest rated workshops were the ones facilitated by our internal teacher leaders. So a huge shout out to all of them for their dedication, their planning, and their professionalism. Participants were so excited about the workshop choices. One of their biggest pieces of feedback was they wanted to be able to sign up for 3, not just 2. And then there was another surprise, just an overwhelming demand for more information on AI, especially with respect to education. So also want to acknowledge that the day after our district PD day, all of our site PD coordinators led their professional learning at their school sites. And we saw a lot of great stuff. We had a chance to visit and see what the different school sites were offering. We saw a focus on multilingual learner support, a couple school sites engaged in interrupting dehumanizing language, some real practical application pieces there. Looking at restorative practices for the classroom, leaning into the use of affinity spaces and community circles to engage in dialogue, and continuing to disrupt white supremacy culture. So looking towards the future, we are super excited for our summer PD. I'm super excited because we haven't been able to offer a summer PD since before the pandemic. And this is it's an opportunity. We're going to invite all of our certificated folks to have sort of we're going to call it a deep preview of our refined draft of the instructional framework. We're going to calling it a soft launch because it's an opportunity for them to really take a look at how the framework is organized and what it has to offer. But it's also an opportunity for us to get some additional feedback and iterate further. We know that next year we're going to be needing to focus on building teacher leader capacity. So in order for them to facilitate professional learning at the school sites that is in alignment with our instructional framework vision, we know we need to invest in their learning and their capacity building. And concurrently, we need to support training and supporting our administrators in understanding the instructional framework as well, so that they can support the teacher leaders and the staff at their school sites. This spring, we started our Professional Learning Steering Committee, which is a group of teachers and administrators with every single school site represented. And the goal of this group is to use data and feedback to make recommendations around professional learning, to really try to capture what the different school site goals are for students, for learning, for staff, and to do it in a balanced way that improves communication across our school sites. We also are going to use this group as an opportunity to provide feedback on professional learning themes and our priority areas moving forward. And another important piece of our professional learning for next year is a focus on multilingual learner support. We are looking at providing differentiated professional learning, thinking about how do we support teachers who are in very high impact subject areas, and how do we make sure that this support, this professional learning, doesn't feel like something new. It doesn't feel like an added initiative, but that it is thoughtfully aligned with our instructional framework and our existing professional learning goals. Thank you. And questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Starting with Trustee Griffin.
Thank you for the presentation. A couple of questions, and I do really like that the upcoming topic, the multilingual learner, because I think that's going to be a key to any breakthroughs that we get. Why were is there a reason why the teacher, the internal teachers who taught the classes scored higher than I'm presuming the experts from outside? Is there anything there? I mean, it's good that they ranked high, but was there any single factor?
I would say that really speaks to just the camaraderie of our educators and wanting to witness other of their peers teaching them. And just naturally that means we're in good relationship with one another, and they have trust and that expertise.
Okay. So, one of the comments I think that you had on the slides were trying to provide time to debrief and to apply that. Now, how can you squeeze that extra time out of a day? Have you got any ideas?
I mean, we always have ideas, but what we need to do is figure out how to make them work. Part of it is thinking about, is there a way that we maybe provide a break after lunch and create spaces for PLCs to come together and do some collaboration on their learning? What we did see at a couple of the school sites on the following Tuesday is some of the site PD coordinators went ahead and embedded that time in their agendas. So they provided some of that processing time at their site. And then we can also be, part of the professional learning steering committee's job is to take a look at these 4 district PD days and help us think really thoughtfully, what are the best ways to use those days and time? And that may help inform us where we can borrow time or bend time in some spaces to provide that time in others.
No. Great answer. Help me bend my time, maybe. Thank you. I appreciated the presentation.
Thank you. Trustee Chavez.
I did have a couple of comments, but thank you so much for this. It's well thought out. It's well put together. And I think I attended the beginning. And then I know Trustee Jacobson probably have a few words because she stayed throughout the day. But I wanted to mention that it's hard to nobody has a crystal ball who's going to be in the Super Bowl. So I do know where I work, there's like thousands of employees, and some employees had already taken that day off as vacation because they thought they were going to celebrate. But when the 49ers lost, they still didn't say, hey, I'm going to go to work anyway. They just took the day off. Now I'm sure they were just, so upset that they just continue to take their vacation day. So we don't have a crystal ball to say, let's plan next PD day when there's not going to be a local team in the Super Bowl. But I'm interested to find out how we could help garner not the support, but get every single staff member. I thought the theater room looked pretty packed at Cappuccino, but you said there were about 20%, about 20%, give or take a couple percentages of staff missing. If those that really enjoyed it could advocate and express how it helped them, I wonder if that will help more folks attend. I do read the comments here, and I mean it's great that they could self-select which workshop to attend. I think that's huge. I mean, that sounds like it's something that I want to attend, and I'm sorry that I could only attend part of the day on that day. But those are my comments. Well, this is a really well done presentation, so thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jacobson.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the wonderful organization you did for the event. I was there that day, and it was, to my eyes, it looked flawless, but I mean, it felt like we were at CSBA, like an actual conference. I also really liked the course offerings that you had. I felt like there was something for everybody. I echo the people who said, I wish we could attend 3 instead of just 2, because I had 3 that I wanted to go to, and I had to email the teacher for the slides, the one that I didn't get to. So, I was just looking through the feedback and the quotes from the teachers, and yeah, I don't really have any questions. Oh, actually, I do have a question. Maybe this is for going forward, but I see the word humanizing a lot or dehumanizing. Can you help us understand what you mean when you use that language?
Do you want to take that? You want me to? Okay. So humanizing means when you're creating an educational experience for a child, it is more than me as a teacher transmitting knowledge to you as the learner. It requires you to see the learner in your classroom as a unique individual with their own lived experiences and histories. And you need to take that into account when you're thinking about how to design the instructional and learning experience for them. You also, a part of that is you also have acknowledged what your histories and experiences are and how that can shape the way you attach outcomes or how you think the learning should be directed. And so it becomes a relationship, like you're holding up a mirror to yourself while you're also thinking about your work with the students so that you can be honest about your interactions with the students, develop really authentic, trusting relationships, and design learning experiences to meet them where they are, to get them where they need to be. I hope that that helps.
Great. Any more questions? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Trustee Land.
I was
I'm
waiting
so
patiently. This is
sorry.
like my thing.
Yes, yes, sorry.
First of all, yeah, I totally agree with everybody. This is an amazing presentation. I actually disrupted this room. It was already set up for the PD and I had a meeting here. Thank you, Shar, for making that happen. But I saw all the notes and how it all organized it was. So even though I didn't get to enjoy it, I knew how organized it was because it was like what they were saying. It was like one of the conferences that we go to. And I love choice, even when it's not just student voice and choice, but teacher voice and choice. So they got to make some decisions for themselves. And I think that's so important. So I truly think that you're doing a great job and how you're setting things up. One of the questions I did have, you had a report, like you were reporting out that 70% went, but some didn't. And how do we get the improvement? How many teachers do go and how many teachers don't? I don't know what that looks like in reality. So could you share that with me?
Sure. So early on in the presentation, I think Marlo on the slide, it says there's around 380 attendees.
Okay.
390 attendees.
Okay.
Thank you. And we, after the PD day, we do send out a survey for absentees like, hey,
what happened?
Yeah, tell us why you didn't come. The overwhelming response is that either they're sick and it is the end of January and that's real, right? Especially if you've got little kids at home and your house is like the hot zone.
Yeah.
I think we've all lived through that. And then the other piece is that part of that response is that many do see that as an opportunity to take a mental health day. And in their feedback, they write things like, I didn't want to miss a day with my students, and this felt like a way I could take care of myself.
Yeah.
And that's a very real, honest response. And I appreciate people being willing to supply that.
A little self-care goes a long way.
And it's, and it's hard. It's hard to say to someone, come to our PD. That's more important than you're needing to take that day.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I
just
think
acknowledging that.
Thank you. That was a great response. I also, the dehumanizing and humanizing nature of what you were talking about with Trustee Jacobson's question, I really appreciate it. It's a very universal design for learning kind of philosophy, and I really like embrace it. So I think that's awesome. So thank you. I hope we do more of that as well. So I love your choices. I love the choices of what we're given at the that were listed in the I forget where I saw it, but the choices that were made. And just thank you very much. It was really good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to say thank you for everything y'all do for just for the constant learning for our staff. I have a request. I think that you all should design a PD day for us. That would be excellent. But thank you so much for your presentation. All good. So yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Going on to item R, construction. Approval to authorize the superintendent or designate to award contract. Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you. As the board knows, we're very excited to move forward with our fleet charging for our transportation department. The board approved through the Carl Moyer grant, the purchase of fully funded 8 buses, as well as a little over $1 million of infrastructure. And the second round of Carl Moyer, which will be bringing in at least another $500,000 in infrastructure funds, in addition to additional buses. On another exciting note, we just got word that our first electric bus actually arrived in Sacramento, as it's getting its final touches before getting delivered, hopefully sometime in May.
Cool.
As you might say, Yancy, how are we going to charge these buses? Well, this is where this item comes into play. We went out for the construction of this out for bids, and the staff is recommending Bachman and Woody Electric Company to perform these services, a total cost of $2.6 million. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Hawkins? Trustee Griffin, please.
I hadn't pressed the button yet. I didn't know if I was gonna just use up oxygen. So what was the process when we went out to bid? Was it just a flat RFP with a weighted evaluation and?
Correct. It is a design build process, and we move forward. And so we're very excited. Hold on, let me pull. Yeah, in September, we came to the board and asked for the approval for the project, and to use the design build project. So it's one of the 3 types of projects that we use. The first is design bid build, which is your typical. The second is our leaseback, which gives us a little bit more control over the selection, where we can take into consideration previous projects that the construction companies have done. And the third is a design build project, which incorporates the design architecture along with the general contractor. And so for this type of project, especially ones that are very significant in electrical engineering as the driver of the cost, that tends to be a very good option on that. That was through the recommendation of Greystone West, our construction management firm.
So have they, what other large, I guess to me, this would be a large infrastructure project for electric chargers. Have they done any other charging systems, or were?
Yeah, they've done several. I can get the board a list of the projects.
I was just curious, just kind of.
Yeah, no, they've come well recommended several projects specifically with school districts. So
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Chavez.
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Jacobs. No. Trustee Land.
Yeah, I'm good.
And I don't have any questions either. Okay.
Can I make a motion?
I'll take public comments.
Oh.
Excuse me. Ms. Aquino, do we have any questions from the public?
There are none.
How about on Zoom?
There are none.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a motion to pass, approve the authorization to superintendent to award the contract.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Trustee Land.
Second.
Second.
This is going to take forever, isn't it?
Second by Trustee Griffin. Okay, Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Land?
Yeah.
And I vote yes. Okay, motion passes. Oh, and our student board reps, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 2, Mr. Hawkins.
All right, thank you so much. As many of the trustees know, through Measure O, a portion of Measure O had a $500,000 per year allocation for 10 years for technology replacement and upgrades. This isn't computers and other things. This is larger scale equipment, including switches, wireless access points, et cetera. Through June 30th of last year, the technology department had directed about 3.8 million of the $5 million of that to be spent. In February this year, in order to try to be most efficient and maximize the use of E-rate funds. E-rate, if you haven't seen it, if you've looked at your cable bill or other phone bill, you will see that it's a portion of tax that gets sent off and actually supports school districts and libraries with different technology and internet access. But we went through our E-rate consultant, Infinity Consulting, and we went out to bid on a number of items in which E-rate will cover approximately 50% of the cost. Those items include battery backups. As we even know today at Cappuccino, it would have been nice to have some more battery backups because of some PG&E issues over there. Wireless access points as we bring in more and more devices post-COVID. It's putting more and more strain on our wireless access points. Core switches, and then firewall, which needs to be upgraded just given the total internet activity and that's going on in our schools due to the, I believe over 10,000 devices that are going on within our school districts. So the reason it's on now is that we're trying to meet a deadline to make sure that we secure that 50% funding from E-rate. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I will open it up for questions. Trustee Griffin.
No questions.
Trustee Chavez.
No questions, just a comment since you brought up the power outage today at Cappuccino. I want to thank staff for their quick action. My daughter sent me a photo of a battery operated light that was plugged into the restroom. So I just want to say that student safety is important, and I felt like everything was safe there. And so please thank staff for everything.
Great.
Absolutely. I want to thank Principal Gomez for jumping off the cliff with us to ensure that his kids, his students had education today and not a day at home. I know it was stressful for everybody, but especially staff there and the principal. So
let me just take a moment just to expand on that because it's a big deal. I mean, this morning, there was a huge team online going back and forth from district office to Cappuccino to transportation to food service to maintenance and operations, coordinating every single little bit of how do we make sure school can stay in session. And if it can't, why can't it? Let's try every possibility we can to make sure fire life safety systems are up and running. Bathrooms have lights. Transportation is available. Food service is yes, modified, but up and running because for some kids, this is where they get their meals. So we take closure of school or the possibility of closure of school very, very seriously. When we've had to do it in the past, it was a painstaking decision. So, in communications as well. I mean, Laura was on the line too and helping us with getting timely communications out. TSG with internet and all of that. I mean, it is a massive behind the scenes scrambling. So I appreciate you bringing it up. I appreciate you saying it and just all the people that made school happen today at Cappuccino is a big deal. So yeah,
And
thanks.
Superintendent Booker, thank you for mentioning that. And by no means did I make it, I want to intend for it to sound like there was just light put in the bathrooms, but there's so much more. So thank you for going into, and as a parent at Cappuccino, I received the text right away. Everything was very timely, as well as when the lights were back on later in the morning. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Trustee Jacobson.
I don't have any comments.
Trustee Land.
No comments, but it's good to know that the phones work. And the cell phones work for the students, even though they shouldn't have them on. Sorry, principal.
Oh. Yeah, and I don't have any questions, but yeah, ditto to everything. Okay, I will open it up for public comment. Ms. Aquino, do we have any public comment, whether they are in person or on Zoom?
There are none.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to
okay,
make a motion to authorize the superintendent to award the best value for E-rate contract.
great,
I'll
thank
sec-
you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Land and a second by trustee Chavez. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Trustee, can't even talk. Student board reps.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, going on to Division of Human Resources, Personnel Consent Agenda, Dr. Black.
Personnel consent has the personnel actions, 1 more year MOU with the Albler teacher residency program and the classified management school year calendar for 24-25.
Thank you. Okay, I will open it up for questions and comments from the board. Trustee Griffin,
No questions or comments.
Trustee Chavez,
None.
Trustee Jacobson,
No.
Trustee Land,
No.
and I don't have any questions. I can, questions or comments from the public. Ms. Aquino?
There are none.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I can entertain a motion.
Also move.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Griffin
I'll second that.
and a second by trustee Chavez. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, going on to personnel actions.
Yes, we have the personnel actions addendum. No special recognitions tonight.
Great, thank you. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. Okay, so any questions or comments? Trustee Griffin,
No questions.
trustee Chavez, trustee Jacobson,
No.
trustee Land,
No.
and I have none as either. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Land,
I'll second that.
second by trustee Chavez. Trustee Griffin,
Aye.
trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Passes unanimously. Okay. All right. Item 2, the San Mateo Union High School District Teachers Association and San Mateo Union High School District's reopener contract proposals. Dr. Breck.
Yes, so this one and the next 2 are contract reopeners for 3 of our 4 employee associations. The first one is with our Teachers Association. We have the teachers proposal for reopeners for information and the district reopeners that includes adding the 504 accommodations to the PRP or the professional responsibility period, a clarification of block pay and salary and benefits, and then the committee reports on sabbaticals, the evaluations to deans and athletic directors, and then a look at the stipends for our music, drama, theater, robotics, and mock trial and other extracurricular positions.
Thank you. I'll open it up for board comments. Trustee Griffin,
No comments.
trustee Chavez,
No comment.
trustee Jacobson,
No.
trustee Land.
No comment.
I don't have any comments or questions either. Okay, going on to item 3.
The next one are the reopeners with the CSCA. They have their the CSCA's reopeners and the district reopeners. That is just limited to the required articles of salary, health and welfare benefits, reclassification, and bus driver language.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin, do you have any comments?
None.
Trustee Chavez,
None.
trustee Jacobson,
None.
trustee Land,
No.
and I have none as well. We'll go on to the next item, item 4.
And these are the reopeners with AFSCME, both AFSCME's reopeners and the districts that is also limited just to the required articles of salary and health and welfare benefits.
Great. Open it up for trustee comments or questions. Trustee Griffin,
No comment.
trustee Chavez,
No comment.
Trustee Jacobson,
None.
trustee Land,
Pass.
and I have none either. Item 5.
Okay, so item 5 is the public hearing to invite public comment on the contracts reopeners.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I have now opened it up for public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Item 6.
6 would be the district's approval of the district's 3 reopeners with the District Teacher Association, CSA, and ASME.
Okay, I will open it up for questions. Trustee Griffin,
None.
trustee Chavez,
None.
trustee Jacobson,
None.
trustee Land,
None.
and I have none. Okay. Item.
It
Oh,
needs
wait,
to
this
be
is the
approval.
motion.
So
Yeah,
I make a
excuse
motion
me.
to approve the contract for reopeners.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Land,
I'll second that.
second by trustee Chavez. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 7.
The next 2 items are resolutions of non-reemployment for next year. The first one is for probationary certificated employees. There's 1 certificated employee on this resolution attachment.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin,
None.
trustee Chavez,
None.
trustee Jacobson,
None.
trustee Land,
None.
and I have none either. Any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. Can I please get a motion?
So move.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Griffin. I will second. Trustee, second by myself. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, item 8.
This is the resolution for non-reemployment going into next year for temporary certificated employees. There's 38 employees on the resolution's attachment, both part and full-time.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin,
No comment.
trustee Chavez,
No comment.
trustee Jacobson,
No.
trustee Griffin, Land, excuse me.
No comment.
And I have no comments either. Can I please get a motion?
I move for approval of the resolution for temporary certificated employees.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Land. I will second. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion carries. Item 9. Enhancing Behavior Support Program.
Yes, this is part of our training program for our instructional assistants. We have approximately 128 in the district. And this is a 3-year program that will train some of them on the registered behavior technician training that will provide hands-on learning for data collection and analysis, allowing for the systematic evaluation and interventions and progress monitoring for our students in our special education program. The funding's from a COVID grant and will run for 3 years.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin,
No.
trustee Chavez,
None.
trustee Jacobson,
None.
trustee Land,
None.
and I have none. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. I can entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Griffin and second by trustee Land. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Land?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Item 10, school psychologist interns.
Interns, yes, we have 10 psychologists and we would like to incorporate intern psychologists. These would be supervised by our full-time psychologists, our permanent psychologists, and they would be paid about $175 a day or $32,000 annually. And they would help the psychologists with their position, with their assignment, assisting with students and families. And the supervising psychologist will also receive a stipend of $2,500 per semester.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin,
No questions.
trustee
I
Chavez.
just want to say, I think this is a great positive, so thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jacobson,
None.
trustee Land.
None.
And I agree with trustee Chavez. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Land moves.
I'll second that.
Trustee Chavez seconds. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Land?
Aye.
I did not ask for public comment. Ms. Aquino, are there any,
There are none.
thank you. Okay, so since everybody voted aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Did you vote?
I did.
Okay.
Um,
No, I didn't hear you.
item 11.
So this has to do with our site sustainability facilitators. We have the site sustainability facilitators and the site wellness facilitators. This item would bring the site sustainability facilitator stipend up to the same amount as the employee wellness stipends. Would be from $2,500 to $3,300. It would cost $6,000 annually.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin?
None.
Trustee Chavez?
None.
Trustee Jacobson?
None.
Trustee Land?
Actually, I do have one. With these stipends, it'd be interesting to kind of know all the different stipends at some point in time.
Okay.
I don't think we need to have it done here, but if you could put it in a weekly, that would be great, because then we could see kind of all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice request. Thank you.
Yep.
And I don't have any questions or comments. Are there any public comment?
There are none.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Yep, we have it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I move to approve.
Thank you. Motion
Second.
by trustee Chavez and second by trustee Land. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Land?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, going on to item U. Phew, that was a lot. Division of Student Services. Superintendent Booker.
None tonight, thank you.
Okay, great. Item V, Division of Instructional Services.
Also none tonight.
Okay.
You get a pass.
Item W, Division of Business Services. Mr. Hawkins, and he's ready.
Of course I'm ready. We're talking about second interim, aren't we? Come on.
Yeah.
Do we get a fun little meme in there somewhere?
No, but as always, I've brought a joke that I'll tell later if you're very interested.
No, I was joking. I was
Okay,
kidding.
good.
Please don't. No. I'm kidding.
It's really
Oh
good.
my
So,
goodness.
All right.
you can just find me afterwards. I'll tell you the good joke.
No.
All right. Well, thank you. I know we've been all waiting all night for this. So we got second interim coming tonight. I'd be remiss if I didn't start every one of these presentations by thanking Valerie Miller, Vanessa Castano, and the team in the Fiscal Services Division. I know every one of you have read every single page of the 200 or so pages of the second interim state reporting out of SACS. But all joking aside, it is an incredible amount of work. And they do 99.9999999 repeating % of the work. So thank you very much. As the board knows, this is the second reporting period after the budget adoption in June. Our first interim was in December, and second interim coming in March. All right, tonight we'll go through some key themes and takeaways, look over the budget calendar, talk about significant changes since first interim, go over our budget assumptions for the current year and our multi-year projections. We'll go over the summary of the second interim financial report, go into the multi-year financial projections, do an overview of the certification of second interim financial report, and then talk about one-time funding and the step down of one-time expenditures related to that one-time funding. And as always, we'll end with future considerations / things that keep Yancey up at night. All right, so if you're going to stop listening to me soon, just listen to this slide right here. What are the key themes, takeaways that I really want the board and the community to take away with what's going on? The first is we still have long-term impacts of the one-term COVID-19 funding. We've had significant commitment in positions that were funded by one-time positions related to the significant needs that came up in COVID, both operational needs as well as the impact on learning loss, learning recovery. We continue to see the negative pressure from state mandated pension rates, while the STRS rate, which is about 2/3 of the impact, excuse me, have actually plateaued now at 19.1%, up from 8.25%, so over a 10% increase in that. Those have at least plateaued. We still do see the negative pressures from the increase in PERS rate. The PERS rate is for our classified employees, and they're about 1/3 of the impact of our overall retirement, state mandated retirement expenditures. We still continue to see inflationary and interest rate pressures that as we're mostly primarily funded by our property taxes. Seeing properties moving quicker is something that we would like to see. Turnover is actually even a more important factor than necessarily price alone. One thing I want to make sure that the board and the community know is the district is in a very strong financial position to face these challenges. So we do have some things that we need to work on and external pressures on that. But due to the board's decisions over the last several years, we are at a very strong financial position to face those challenges. One final note is the governor's budget proposal came out in January, and we saw no significant new money. In fact, if you heard the news around the state budget, the state's got a lot of work to do over the next several months to close the gap. In terms of budget calendar, where are we? We're at the second interim financial report, which captures all activity through January 31st of the fiscal year, and has to be adopted by the Board of Trustees before tomorrow. In terms of significant changes since first interim, we saw a slight increase in our property taxes. Staffing has been updated to reflect vacancies for the year, although we don't have very many of those, thankfully. Health and welfare has been updated to reflect the January open enrollment period. And then in terms of ongoing commitments, athletics has seen an increase related to the cost of officials. The last couple of years have seen significant increase in the costs of officials. And then we continue to see pressures from utility, primarily from natural gas, as the last couple of years have really seen an increase, as I'm sure you've seen in your bills at home. In terms of one-time commitments, the current budget includes the board's approval of $2.4 million in one-time commitments to cover health and welfare costs for our employees. That cost is split between the current year budget and the 24-25 budget. And we also included a new anti-bias grant, which we're really excited about as we move forward. In terms of budget assumptions, I'm not going to read all these through. You have plenty of time to do that. I'm just going to hit on a couple of quick notes. Top line, assessed valuation, which is our primary revenue driver, 6.1%, both at first interim and second interim. As we look towards the out years in our multi-year projection, we include an approximate 3.5% as growth. Per SSC, that's School Services of California, and the Department of Finance, the projection of the COLA for next year is actually 0.76%. So as we are funded by property tax, this is less impactful on us. You'll see some of the neighboring districts who are state funded or around the state. It's a very difficult COLA. So we'll see where that goes as the budget discussions move forward. The third thing I want to note is that we haven't included any salary increases in the out years. Those will be related to as Deputy Superintendent Mr. Black noted earlier with our negotiations. And then the PERS rate, as I noted earlier, continues to be projected to increase, and those increases, those projections are based on the PERS board most recent estimates.
Do you want questions at the end, or do you want them as we go? I'm sorry.
Questions as we go is fine.
Can we just wait till?
Oh,
please.
It's going to be hard because then we're going to have to go back to certain slides. So just so you know.
Well, I just don't want it to prolong the presentation or make it super.
Okay.
Do you really, is it a burning
No,
question?
it's just we're going to have to go
Okay.
back to the slide. So
That's fine.
all.
That's fine. We'll go back.
Okay.
All righty. All right. This is a summary of the second interim financial report. You see the adopted budget, first interim and second interim. I think the key here is that there haven't been any real significant changes since the first interim. This is relatively common, as the first interim is usually where we see the significant changes, and second interim is really where we're just kind of tightening up those budget assumptions as we go through the year. In terms of multi-year projections, I always note I want to focus on unrestricted in here because it includes the vast majority of our ongoing expenditures, and it also includes the impact of contributions needed for restricted programs. The two most significant of those being our routine restricted maintenance, and the largest one being special education. As you can note, in the current year, we're about break even. We see about a 1%, little over 1% deficit in 24-25. And that flips down to almost break even in 25-26. One thing to note, we have a 3.5% increase in our property taxes included there, but we have not included yet the salary increase. So that will be updated as we come to conclusion of those negotiations with our labor partners. In terms of certification, so each reporting period, the district must certify that it can make its financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent years. And as usual, staff is making the recommendation that the district will be able to meet its obligation for the current and 2 subsequent years. That's a positive certification. In terms of one-time funding, you've seen this slide now many, many times. It is actually getting smaller, which means that some of those funds have now, been cycled through. And this actually, we expect this to get smaller and smaller, as you can see the deadlines on the right. But it still is a significant amount of money. And we still are working diligently to best step down those expenditures as we move forward. Just a quick overview from first interim. The board previously had a step down plan of specifically the COVID related expenditures as noted here. But as we received feedback from our instructional leaders and our principals, there were some positions that our instructional leaders and our principals really believed were critical to retain. And so the board at first interim the staff made recommendations and the board approved the reductions listed below on this slide to support the retention of the services that were deemed really critical to keep that were made by those COVID expenditures. In terms of future considerations, what I noted, what keeps me up at night, number one, property tax growth. We continue to watch daily the property tax growth on the assessed value tracker. We are seeing impacts of that higher interest rates and related kind of slowing in terms of turnover of property. We spend a lot of time on the phase out of one-time funding, both COVID and other state funding, which we don't really expect that we will receive any significant additional one-time funding in the state budget. Related to that, the step down of the positions funded by one-time funding, We talked about negotiations, the state mandated pension rates that we continue to monitor, enrollment, inflation, and then obviously special education needs and costs. So with that, I am happy to open it up to questions.
Thank you. Okay, we'll open it up to questions or comments from the board. Trustee Griffin.
I'm gonna try not to do what Trustee Land said and have to fumble back to where we were, but you know, we were talking about key takeaways. We were talking about the state's proposed budget. And you know, there's been articles that, you know, that the final number just seems to be moving around and on a daily basis. Do we have any idea?
So CASBO actually just put out another publication looking at a number of 58 billion. You know, it's really likely a dartboard. The Department of Finance has used one number. The Legislative Analyst Office has come out and looked at a different number. The governor put out his, and the Department of Finance put out their numbers in January, which were significantly more rosy than the LAO's numbers, and the LAO's reiterated those numbers. But I will say that then the next month, the governor's numbers, the tax collections, February tax collections beat the governor's number. So I think I think the key takeaway around that area, Trustee Griffin, is that all of them show a significant deficit, whether it's 40 billion, 50 billion, 58 billion. The state's got a lot of work to do. Luckily, the state is in a much better financial position than the last time they saw these kind of deficits back in 2009. They have significant reserves to have time to make those decisions. But almost all of the proposals that I've seen show significant use of reserves in the first year, as well as some of the old time favorites of deferrals of revenue and other kind of accounting tricks to get us from year to year.
Okay. You know, I agree with your future considerations and, you know, those points. The one thing I was looking at on the pension cost, you know, the market's been kind of motoring along pretty good lately. And when you get those kind of gains, that gives us some relief on these contribution rates. And maybe they're, you know, and there's an interest rate cut, supposedly the feds were talking about this year, and that might bode well for, you know, our rates, our contribution rates and stuff. So.
Yeah, we have our fingers crossed on that. And that one, we're hoping that through June 30th, which is when PERS looks at their numbers again and looks at their actuarial study about the unfunded liability, that they look at that. But I absolutely agree with your comments.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Chavez.
Thank you. Mr. Hawkins, I want to say that I'm so grateful for your summary, you know, as we all are. I'm a numbers person, but I can't begin to read the state's hundreds of pages of their budget. So I'm really grateful that you provide the key points for us. My question regarding our budget assumption for our district, the assessed valuation is currently at, not as of today, but as of the slide deck, was 6.1%. As the assessed, I always hear you say that, and pleasantly so, I always hear you say that the assessed valuation is creeping up or it's higher than we plan for, because we conservatively plan, which is a good thing. I agree with that. Do you see the district spending that incremental piece, or do you see the reserves continue to increase as we have been in the years when that assessed valuation increases and it is higher than we actually
so I see the spend down of the restricted side of the budget pretty significantly over the next couple of years as that's grown. You know, I think we'll continue to be conservative in that, but I think it really depends on how much it really creeps up. Okay. You know, if it stays on the track it has, we're actually a little bit below what we've been in the last couple of years where it's tracking right now. And so again, we track that almost every day. Yeah, I think we're going to spend all of that money. If we start churning a little bit better, which we can hope for, but I don't necessarily expect, then we can, look towards, what we're going to put towards reserve and things like that.
Okay.
But I think at least at staff, we are comfortable with the level of reserve that we have right now. But we're not necessarily looking to dip into that unless it's for a critical a need that's in line with our district's priorities.
Right. Well, I bring that because I don't think, because 6% seems for 6.1% seems higher than we had forecasted, but you're continuing to say that it's trending a little higher than we forecasted. So that's good news. Which leads me to my second question, because you said you look at it daily. So if you look at the assessed valuation daily for the property taxes, I'm wondering if you have a digital device on your desk or on the wall that just keeps changing every day.
I really should, but no, we use the county. We're actually pretty lucky that the county has a assessed valuation tracker. A lot of counties do not have that.
So that tracker might be digitally in your office, either like shown on the wall.
We're-
Anybody walking in your office is going to see, oh, today's rate.
I'm gonna get AI right on that to pop it on there.
Thank you for your report. Thank you for your report.
Thank you. Trustee Jacobson.
Thanks for the report. I have no questions.
Thank you.
Trustee Land,
Actually,
your
just-
turn.
It's interesting. Trustee Chavez is my first, she's referencing my first question. So going to the assessed value, I remember we first reported the assumption was going to be around 3.5, 4 something. Now we're at 6. So I'm into the numbers. So it was 3.5, then 4 point. And I remember, and you're right, last year was like 7 something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd have to go pull back, but it was higher than 6.1.
Right.
It may not have been.
I get it all relative, but
Yes.
but originally our assumptions were in 3.5, so we should be in a pretty good situation then.
We are, but as we moved through that, we were actually able to, in negotiations, able to do that and make some commitments in terms of the programmatic side. So that's for
Like?
23, 24.
Okay.
So that was related to our English, our English, multilingual learners that we added some additional supports. At Peninsula, we added some supports there.
Cappuccino.
At Cappuccino, thank you. We added some counseling and other supports there as we right size
collectively. So I'm thinking budget now, not program. So
Yeah.
about how much would that be if you talk about adjustments? How much was that altogether ish?
I'd have to pull together that, but we're talking significant dollars,
Like?
well over in the 7 figures, well over $1 million.
Over $1 million.
Programmatic investments,
2
well
million?
over potentially. I'd have to go back and do a full look at that because some of those were added during the April budget study session when they were approved, and then some of those were added before the year.
So my next question is regarding the multi-year. Usually we have a percentage of reserves. We usually have a percentage number. It's easy to do. I don't see it anymore. I wish we had it back.
We will bring it back.
Yeah.
Trustee
So
Land. I like
so
it
I'm
too.
calling you on it, and I'm going to say what is going to be our reserves for the second interim?
So at the second out year,
Second
we're
interim,
looking,
yeah.
no, second interim out year, you're a little
Yeah.
under 16%. You're probably high 14, low 15% overall reserve level.
Pretty healthy.
It's about where I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah.
But I really think it's important for me, at least for me as a board member, to know kind of the numbers and what that looks like. So
No,
I would like to see it in the report.
No, I think I appreciate that, and we were happy to add that. So
Thanks.
we'll add it for the next.
Now I need your
presentation.
expertise. So now that I've whipped you into a frenzy, now I need to talk about the governor's budget. So we had legislative week with CSBA, and we were talking about the $8 billion governor's maneuver. It's not a deferral,
no,
but it's something crazy. And it's going to maybe impact Proposition 98 in our floor, or, a floor of minimum accountability. So if you can enlighten me a little bit, because I'm not a numbers guy too well. And so if you can help me out understand what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I'll try to do it in the best way. It's a very technical and
that's what I've heard.
Arguably legal or
Illegal.
not so legal. This year's budget was based on incomplete information. It's always based on incomplete information, but this because of all the storms in California last year, the the tax date was moved back from April originally till October and then till November.
October 15th, the guy knows.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Trustee Griffin's got my back. That meant when they calculated Prop 98, it was based on a projection of revenues that was really based on significantly less information that is usually that. When, October 15th came, the revenues came in significantly lower, which are truly the revenues from back on April 15th, which they should have built the budget, which means Prop 98, which is our minimum guarantee, was wildly off. It was overestimated to the tune of almost $10 billion or around $10 billion. So in a good thing, the governor actually allocated that money to education. And so it was technically over allocated. And so in order for the governor to rebench, which means lower the amount that they're going to give to successive years, basically you have to give more money to schools every year, just generally.
Right.
Well, unless you rebench it. Now, the legal problem comes in. Rebenching it really means that you take money from schools. So what he's trying to do is trying to be nice to schools. He's trying to say, I want to still give you that money, but then I want to rebench because he's given a lot of one-time money to schools. I want to rebench it back, but not actually take the money back. And so it's definitely a novel idea, whether it's the LAO has come out very aggressively against it. But in some ways there's positives to schools because it means a rebenching of Prop 98 without taking that money away. But there's a slippery slope argument of if you can just mess with Prop 98 all the time, you can start shrinking it at the state level anytime when it's not for potentially a good reason.
Yeah.
And
that was CSBA's.
It's a scary thing. It's probably a good thing in a like a one-time bubble.
Yeah.
But long term, that's where you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any more questions for you. Oh, yes, go ahead.
So sorry, I meant to say this earlier. I did thank you for the presentation but I also see the two V's in the back there, Vanessa and Valerie. So I just want to thank them as well.
We always say thank you. I
Yeah,
forgot.
thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, it's
No, y'all are awesome.
they're incredible.
Thank
So,
you. Absolutely.
I'm ready for that joke now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for
You're
it.
up.
why is Switzerland? What's the best thing about Switzerland?
Chocolate.
Uh-huh.
It's holy. No, holy Swiss cheese.
Mm.
Yeah, holy.
I don't really know, but the flag's a big plus.
Okay.
Then-
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Good dad joke.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Do we need to adopt? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
we
make a
need-
motion to
and-
adopt the second interim report.
I'll second that.
And approve a positive certification.
Oh,
And
approve the
approve the
positive.
positive certification.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by trustee Land and a second by trustee Chavez. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land.
Yes.
And I vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, going on to board operations.
I don't have the list.
2024, 2025 proposed board meeting dates. Superintendent Booker.
Yeah, thank you very much. So each year, the Board of Trustees schedule meeting dates for board meetings. We've posted them here for your review. The only one that's got an asterisk by it is we're proposing to move what would typically be a September 12th, 2024 board meeting. We've got a lot of our back to school nights scheduled, all of them for that night. So we propose we're moving it to Wednesday, September 11th instead.
Okay. Okay, questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin,
No comments.
trustee Chavez,
None.
trustee Jacobson,
No.
trustee Land.
I'm just gonna say I might have a couple problems, but not major. I also have back to school night that September week. I just haven't been told what day. So
Well,
I
tell
might
them
have
not
a
to make it
problem.
on Wednesday.
I know, but I might have a problem. Okay. But I'll
Okay.
get back to you. I'll abstain, but I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. And I don't have any questions. Any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Okay, I will take a motion.
So move.
Okay, motion by trustee Griffin. I will second. Second by me. Okay. Let's see, trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez,
Aye.
trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
trustee Land.
I actually can say aye.
Okay.
Back to school's on the 5th for me.
Excellent. Okay,
I'm like,
great.
woohoo.
Okay, and I vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 2, updated graduation dates and times. Superintendent Booker.
Yeah, so we're bringing this back really not to have a conversation about which trustee is going to attend which graduation. We can do all that part offline if
Yeah.
there are concerns or swaps or whatever. But what we really want to call out is that San Mateo High School's graduation is on May 30th at 5 p.m. We had some different times in different areas in different postings. So that's at 5 p.m. on May 30th. And then secondly, we adjusted the middle college graduation. That's on May 22nd at 4:30 p.m. So those are changes that we wanted to bring to the table. So this is an updated, established graduation dates, times, and locations.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin. Any questions or comments?
I want to do San Mateo graduation, so.
Okay.
We'll open up Aragon as an opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. We'll talk offline for that. Trustee Chavez.
No, I just had a question about the adult school. I know it's TBD, but that later on we'll know more about that, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let
and-
you know.
Right. But they did say though that it was the 28th.
That's for their EL graduation.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a different
Okay.
graduation. Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Jacobson.
No.
Thank you. Trustee Land.
I'd be I only have one this year. I think I had DTech, which is not on here.
Oh. Good
So that's why I think I
point.
had 2, and that was
Yeah.
my second one. So if we can get that information, that'd be great. But
Yep.
if I don't have DTech, I'd be more than happy to help someone out if they can't make one of the ones that they can't make. Okay. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, and I don't have any questions or comments. Let's see, I can entertain them. Oh, do we have any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. Okay,
I make a motion to approve the adjusted graduation dates and times.
thank you. Motion by trustee Land,
Second.
second by trustee Griffin. Trustee Griffin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Trustee Chavez?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Land?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Item 3, review and discuss the specific board policies and administrative regulations, December 2023, updates part 2. Dr. Black.
Yes, these are legislative updates for review this time and then approval at the next meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
When I looked at them, it looked like they were almost all, I don't know, if it was mandated by law. There were
Right.
legal requirements, so.
Correct.
I'm fine with moving them.
Okay. Trustee Chavez?
No.
Trustee Jacobson?
No.
Trustee Land? And I have no questions or
No.
comments. Any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
It's okay. Entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by trustee Griffin.
I don't think it's a motion. It's just.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, we don't need to take a vote. We're just going to move this to.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but I shut down a certain hour, so sorry.
I was gonna use my point. I was gonna use my Robert rules of
been
order,
waiting.
point of information. Or
Waiting for that.
Whew, okay. Item 4, review and discuss administrative regulation and exhibit 3320, claims and actions against the district. Dr. Black.
Mr. Hawkins is going to take this one.
All right, so this is a small change as recommended by our insurance, JPA, SMIGSIG, related to some changes in law that recently occurred. It's a change to basically a number, changing it up to 35,000. But
Thank you. Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Griffin,
No comments.
trustee Chavez,
None.
trustee Jacobson,
No.
trustee Land.
No.
I have no questions or comments. Any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. Can I,
This, this one's again moved to
another one?
consent.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we'll keep going. Let's
Sorry, I'm
see.
getting there. Future board agenda.
Yes, future board agenda items, Mr. Booker.
The only future board agenda that we have on the books from Board of Trustees at this point is to bring school counselors to the meeting, to report out academic counselors, to report out some of their roles and responsibilities and what they're seeing at their school sites. So we'll be coordinating that for the spring.
Thank you. Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Land, go ahead.
So I'd like to request, just kind of an update on principals as instructional leaders. I know we had that as a main goal a while ago,
Oh,
and I'd
yes.
like to just get an update on how things are happening and evolving.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just a question.
Yes.
And I could be confused. That happens sometimes. I thought we were going to have a presentation on maybe the environmental, the student that
yeah.
wanted us to look at the environmental, what's the right word? Like the compostable forks, spoons, knives, blades, what have you, like a whole packaging presentation on that?
Yeah, we do.
Recycling.
That is scheduled for, hold on, give me a
April.
second, April 11th.
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I think
Yeah,
you'd mentioned we
thank
didn't have any further.
Wait
Yeah,
till
I forgot.
Earth Day.
Okay. Thank you,
It's Earth
thank you.
Day in April.
That's
okay?
that's my only comment or question.
Okay, well,
I got another one.
yes.
Gateway. Are we gonna, what's the evolution going on with that?
Yeah, we could probably do an update later in the spring. We're still
Which is
going through
totally
the
fine.
process right now with
It's-
the county office.
Or can it be in a weekly? Is that enough? Okay.
Say at some point in time.
Update.
I'm trying to keep tabs on the things that we had in our.
Yeah.
I think it's just I think it's important if the topic that you're mentioning, you think the public community is interested in as well,
Absolutely.
because the Friday updates.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
the memo
course.
would only go to the board, but
Of course, yeah.
maybe Gateway is something that other
Happy to do it.
community members would be interested
Yeah.
in.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, are there any any questions or comments from the public?
There are none.
Thank you. Okay. That's it. We are adjourned. Thank you. All right.
Night. Good meeting.